Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, welcome everybody, and welcome Jenna. Today is Tuesday, and it's the third Tuesday of the month when we always do the Coaching Crucible with Mr. Drayton Boylston and me, Coach Gary here, and we welcome you all to a presentation. Today's conversation is going to be all about building long-term relationships with high-end coaching clients. And before I say hi to Jenna, my cohort here this afternoon, I want to let everybody know that Drayton and I came up with this presentation and this slideshow for you today, this PowerPoint, based on what we've been hearing from you, our members, the attendees, people involved here every month with the Coaching Crucible, and we've been kind of understanding that many of you need a methodology, a system, a process to take your clients through. So Drayton and I have spent several weeks here putting this presentation for you together. We're going to be giving it live at the World Business and Executive Coaching Summit next Thursday, and we thought we would share it with our Coaching Crucible people first and let you all take a look at it. So before we get started, I wanted to introduce Miss Jenna, who's going to be sitting in for Drayton today. So welcome, Jenna, and it's so great to have you again with us this month. Thank you for helping Drayton in his time of need.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gary. What an honor. I get to spend time with you 2 months in a row in the audience. So, thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be with you again today, and we'll create some value like we did last time. And yes, I am here to serve as Drayton the Second. so thanks for having me.
Yeah, not necessarily by design, Drayton's plan, but as it turns out, he couldn't be at two places at once, yet 2 months in a row, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think he's working on that technology, but he hasn't quite figured it out yet.
Knowing Drayton, you're probably right. Do you want to remind everybody a little bit of your role with Executive Coaching University and why Drayton has the utmost confidence in you being here as my partner?
Absolutely. Yeah, so my role, I work with the Executive Coaching University, and my role is Director of Operations and Training. So that basically means that I'm Drayton's right hand, and we work very closely together in almost everything with the university. So I'm happy to jump in and help where I can and help to support everybody that comes across the Executive Coaching University. So it is my pleasure, again, to be here, and I'm hoping to create some added value and some maybe different perspectives that are mine so that we can have this lovely conversation. So thanks, Gary.
Great. Well, it's my pleasure having you. I love working with you as we did last month and in the past, and so for me it's an upgrade. Just don't tell Drayton that.
That's right. I'll keep that one to myself.
If you want to go ahead and flip to the next slide.
Absolutely.
And while we're putting this slide up, maybe we should ask our audience if everyone is seeing the session overview slide, the first slide with copy on it, and if they're hearing our voices all right. So maybe a few of you would type in and let Jenna know that that we're coming across clearly and you're receiving our audio and video clearly, then we'll move on.
Absolutely, and everybody, you can just raise your hand and I'll know that you're hearing us clearly. Great, Doug, thank you. We've got audience, Charles. All right, everybody can hear us, so here we go, Gary.
Okay, great. So as I was saying earlier, prior to introducing Jenna, Drayton and I felt strongly in this last year that we've had these conversations and we've given you month by month different tools and pieces to coaches to help you build your practice, to help you develop your practice, to be better at what it is that you do. And we're happy to do that, as everyone knows, or if there's anyone first time here for the first time may want to know, this is a no sales zone. We're offering this as a benefit to the coaching community worldwide, and we have people each month from all over the world join us in this conversation. We want to give back to the coaching community, and in particular, we want to help people in the domain of executive coaching, business and corporate coaching get better at what they do. And this is our way of giving back, is to do these monthly Coaching Crucible free 1-hour events. In the process, what we've gotten as feedback from all of you is that what's lacking, as we read between the lines, is there's an inconsistency between what you want to deliver to your clients and what they're getting in many cases, and there's an inconsistency in having a process, a methodology, a system that has your clients get really powerful benefits, you being their coach, you being their trusted advisor, you being their mentor for where they want to get to in their business, in their occupation, what they're doing. And so we put this presentation together, and we wanted to share it with you. And as we've talked about in the past, without me reading these bullet points, Jen and I will just kind of talk in general about what it means to be a trusted advisor as part of being a coach, why you want to have a process, a methodology, a system, and we've shown you in the past a little glimpse of a diagram of Executive Coaching University, what their a diagram, what their system, their methodology includes, and the whole point here is that we want you to see how you can deliver sustainable results to your clients, how they can get at least 3 times return on investment in the process, and how you can have long-term sustainable results for your clients, long-term engagements, and you should be getting paid anywhere from a low side of $350 per hour to $500 or $600 per hour or more for your services. Now, before I turn it over to Jen and get some feedback on this particular slide from her, I want to say that when you have long-term engagements, when you have a process, a methodology, when you have systematically an approach for your coaching, and it includes what they get for a year, if they're going to get the kind of return on investment that Executive Coaching University and BusinessCoach.com have been delivering to our clients for over 20 years, then you deserve to get paid handsomely for that and get rewarded for what you do with and for your clients. And we use these hourly rates, but we don't charge by the hour. It's a process, and part of your system is having an agreement where your people will pay you those kinds of rates, but it's usually on a monthly retainer fee, not an hourly rate. But I'm giving you that hourly rate to give you an indication as to what you should be charging. In the past, Jenna Drayton and I have been having these conversations, and then people will email in and raise their hand and say, well, I'm only getting $50 an hour. One case we had somebody who was getting $25 an hour, or other fees, and so I wanted to make that point and talk a little bit about that and becoming a trusted advisor. I'm going to kind of throw it back to you for a minute, Jenna, and then I'll pick it back up after that. But these are some of the thoughts that Drayton and I have had, and some of the thoughts that are on this slide that we wanted to teach people, so that we see people being profitable and having nice, healthy, sustainable coaching practices. So would you like to elaborate on any of that, or
Yeah.
take take a few minutes and talk about what we're talking about here today, Jenna?
Absolutely, Gary. And I'm a big believer in the idea of a trusted advisor, because if you think about executive coaching, and we are working with executives, or we're working with business leaders, we're working with people in business, and most individuals in business are receiving filtered information all of the time. So all of the feedback that they're getting, all of the insights that they're getting, it's filtered. So that means it's not coming through some of the things that they need to hear or could hear or grow from. They're not hearing. They're not hearing that basic information on how they're doing and the impact that they're having. Because if you're speaking to an individual in a corporation, and they may be higher up than you, or they may be a peer, you're not as willing to give back that kind of information. And when a coach comes in, and we are a trusted advisor, because we are that safe place, we're that safe place not only for the individual to be able to work through the things that they want to, or maybe even need to work through, but we're also seeing what's in front of them that perhaps they're not seeing for whatever reason. As people, as human beings, we tend to see things with our own filter, and our perception may be off. And so as a trusted advisor, you're coming in to really take that magnifying glass to them and to their life, if that's what they're working on, and to their business first and foremost, and how they're running or managing or leading, so that they can really do the work that's necessary in order to grow. And the piece about the process and why a process matters, if we don't have a process, it's very difficult to understand the movement that the client is making. So we end up coming in a little bit more subjectively. We come in guessing where the person's at, and where they're moving to. And then there's a stress that comes onto coaches. As we come into a call, we think, oh, what are we going to work on today? Or we come into a call and say, what do you want to work on today? And in my experience, a lot of executives, it's really not what they're interested in. They want to know that they're making forward motion, and they want to understand what that forward motion is. So you can speak to that as a coach. You can say, okay, this is where we're at, this is what we're working on right now, and this is the direction that we're looking to move in with the process that we're in. And the last piece about the process is, if you have a process and you understand the direction that you're going to be moving in, it gives you a sense of ease, so you can be more fluid and you can go where it's necessary to go. So you're really engaged, you're really present, and you're really able to serve from that place, instead of always trying to be one step ahead and thinking through, okay, what should I say next? What should I ask next? What should I do next? Because you understand that we are within a process, and within that process there's fluidity. There's ability to move where we want to move. I see it as water, and we're filling in the gaps, right? We're filling in those holes, and we're making sure that it's a very strong movement within that water. And the last piece, Gary, that's come up for me is around the hourly rate. And I'm a big proponent of even putting out your rates and charging quarterly. So all of my corporations, they pay a quarterly fee, and it just keeps that conversation. It's just part of the process, right? They get a quarterly invoice, and that payment is made, and then we move on to the real work. So it doesn't have to be about the money, and it's an investment. They are making an investment in themselves. They're making an investment in their business. And when you can step into your own value and the value that you bring to them, then the money conversation, it really does diminish and even go away, because this is the value that you create, this is how you serve, and this is the investment that they're making. And with that, it does create that longer term coaching. Good coaching is not Band-Aid, and it's not short term. It's long term, because in order to make any kind of growth or development or shifts, you need the time to be able to do that. It's not a quick fix, and it's not easily accomplished within 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, because the Band-Aid will fall off, and the habitual behavior will come back, and the learned processes will step back into place, and then we haven't made any growth. So those are my initial thoughts on what we're talking about here, Gary.
Gosh, Jenna, that was absolutely beautiful. I just loved hearing that, and you all sorts of things popped up for me while you were talking. So one thing that Drayton and I have not made clear enough is all this needs to be explained to the client. So when you do, we don't do presentations, or we don't convince clients to become our clients. We do demonstrations, or we actually do coaching with them the first session or two, so that they can experience. Um, then you move into this process where they say, okay, a session or two of free coaching, and you're coaching them in the direction of making sure that they're a match for you and you're a match for them. All this needs to be explained to them, just the way that Jenna explained it. So these monthly calls are recorded, so you can go back and listen to Jenna's words. But it needs to be explained to the client what you're up to, so they understand the game here, and they understand what the opportunity is for them. And in that process, what's really critical for you to understand, and I would ask everybody to please make a note of this, it's more about who you're being when you are in the conversation, as opposed to what you're saying or doing. So who you're being, you're identifying yourself as a coach. Some of you may add the word mentor or trust or advisor to that description. That's fine if that's what it says on your card, your business card, and on your website. But who you're being is somebody who is trustworthy to give that kind of coaching and information to the client, to have them be all the better for it. So the idea is, as a trusted advisor, it's not something that you do, it's who you're being is somebody worthy of that trust, and that they feel comfortable having conversations with you, because it ultimately oftentimes gets very, very intimate and detailed, and they're willing to pour their heart out to you to let you see where the blind spots are for them. And this explanation of how you work with them is critical in the process. Now, you have a process, and we're going to get in a minute, and you want to make sure that they understand that the sustainable results that they want and ultimately are hiring you to do is not a short-term process, as Jenna said. So you want to let them know that this is probably a 12-month agreement that we're putting together, and in our agreement at businesscoach.com, they have a 30-day out clause. So if they feel like they're not getting the value in month number 9, 10, 11, 12, they can give you a 30-day notice. They don't have to ride it all the way out to that. And it's the same for the coach. If they're not doing their assignments, if they're not following through, then you can give them a 30-day notice. But our average client, we find over the last 25 years, has stayed with us for 23 months on average. So they're not likely to do that if they are coachable, if they are willing to do the assignments, if they're willing to allow you to get into their world and take them through the process. Then they will get the long-term sustainable results, and that's ultimately what they want. It's not coaching is not a quick fix, nor is being a trusted advisor, and that's what you're there for, and that's what they trust in you for. So whenever you're ready, if you want to add something to that, Jenna, or go to the next slide. In either case, I'm either fine with me.
I'm just going to answer a couple of questions that came in that are really pertinent to what we're speaking to here, if that's okay, Gary.
That's great.
Just that the last little piece that came up for me while you were speaking is that a lot of these individuals, they don't have anyone to go to, because they are the one that's supposed to have all of the answers. They are the leaders. They are the ones that everybody else goes to and says, how do I do this? What should I do here? Who should I talk to here? They are so busy trying to lead everyone around them that they have They have no one, no sounding board, no trusted advisor, no individual to work on themselves with. So that's just a big piece of that trusted advisor also. I have two questions here, one from Anthony, and he asked, is that quarterly retainer prepaid? Absolutely, Anthony. That's a prepaid quarterly retainer because that's investment, right? They're invested in themselves, they're invested in the process. And then the other question came from Doug. Should all coaching processes end with the achievement of predetermined client results and goals? And Gary, I'll just speak quickly to this and then maybe you can add to it. When you have a process and you understand how you move through that process, it becomes a vetting system. So when you're even having an initial conversation with a prospective client, you understand what you do, how you do it, and how you move people through. So you'll know right off the get-go if this person's a fit for the work that you do, or perhaps there's another individual that will better serve them. So that's one piece of that that comes up for me. And the goals of the client are within that. So there's a process, yes, there's movement that you take them through, but you're focused on their goals within the process. So it's, I was trying to get a visual for you guys and I can't quite get one, but you know, you're driving the car and then the turn signal is where you bring in the goals, let's say. So you know you're going to head in that direction right now. You're still driving the car, but you're going to turn left right now because that's where you're going with the goals. So that's how I would respond to that, Doug. And Gary, I don't know if you have anything to add there.
As we talked about before earlier, I have so much to say about all this. I think we're better to go to the next slide, and I'll add commentary as I go along, and we pick up some other additional points.
Great. Okay, you should be on what's working, Gary.
Yeah, okay, great. So Jen and I are going to each spend a couple of minutes talking about what's working, and what we want to advocate here before we go to the next slide is that we know that some things for most of you are working. So some of you may have an agreement, a 12-month agreement. The last page of our agreement, ours is 3 pages plus a 4th page, is ground rules for coaching. So if you don't have that, you might want to make sure that you understand that your clients need to make sure that they do their assignments, that they show up on time, that they're coachable, and we have all that in a document that's I think there's 11 different ground rules that our clients need to agree to. So these are the kinds of things that many of you have already that are working. Many of you already maybe have assignments for your clients, and so you may have that already. Many of you maybe meet with your clients once a week, and that's the process that you have agreed to with them. So that's one of the things that's working for you. Many of you might already be charging $300, $400, $500, $600 an hour or more. Drayton and I have talked about this in previous calls. The highest fee that I know that's a one-on-one coaching fee is one of my peers charges about $2,500 per hour and has a waiting list of people to work with him. And about the question that was asked earlier, do you pay the fee in advance? He has them pay 1 year in advance, Jenna. So they write one check per year, and it's 1 year's worth of, and he has no agreements, charges north of $2,500 per hour, and he has a waiting list of clients waiting to work with him, and because he doesn't have an agreement or ground rules for coaching or anything like that, if the client and the coach get into a disagreement 6 months down the road or whatever, he just says to them, look, evidently you're not doing your assignments and you don't want to do coaching, or you want to quit or whatever, just let me know who you want to make the check out to. Pick a charity and I'll donate the rest of the money to a charity of their choice. Now, again, the point is that's his system, his process. I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying he's very, very clear up front how he works with his clients, and there's no disagreements or confusion about that. He has a system, a process, and he shares that with them, and that's the way he does it. We have our monthly retainers paid at the beginning of the month before people get their month's worth of coaching, Jen, and it's a we invoice them a month in advance. So that's how we do it. Anything else that you want to add, Jenna, that is what things that people might be doing that are working already that we can acknowledge them for to this point?
And I'll just be real quick here, Gary. Wesley asked if we could share some ground rules, and I like what you said there about it's really according to how you want to run your coaching and you want to run your business. So I know you gave a couple of examples there, Gary, but maybe we can park that question if we have time at the end and just come back to it. The only thing I would add is coaching engagements are different. They're a different kind of conversation. And individuals, in my experience, it's really valuable for them to know that and to understand that. So in our contracts, there's a piece about that, just talking about the conversation and how the conversation will differ and the expectations that are there initially from both the coach and the client.
Well stated, and I think that you just hit the golden word. One of my favorite words is you should let your clients know whatever your system, your process, your ground rules, your agreement, the amount of times per month that you meet. Again, we typically meet 3 to 4 times a month with our clients and have our students do that. All those expectations should be made very clearly and communicated very clearly on the front end of the agreement, so that there's no question what expectations your clients should and how you expect them to be in the relationship. And as you're going to the next slide, Jenna, my point is that everyone has expectations. You and the client, and you do yourself a big favor to make sure that you give clear expectations to your clients and let them know that you expect them to be coachable, do their assignments, follow the ground rules, follow the agreement, be out in front of the relationship, and let them know what that looks like, and ask them what expectations they have of you, so that you're really clear and clean going into the relationship. And this is all part of the process, the methodology, the system. And I probably should have said at the beginning, Jenna, many organizations teach that, coaching is asking questions and you fly by the seat of your pants and you figure it out as you go along and so on and so forth. And both Drayton and Jenna and I are all not in that camp. We teach a system for the reason that you can keep the client on track and get those expectations clear, and there's no mystery to the relationship. It's not figured out as we go along. It's very clearly identified, and in fact, we actually, to some of our clients, we actually let them know 6 months in advance what some of the months will look like, and what they should expect to what books to read and what assignments to do, and how we're going to develop the relationship over a 12-month period of time. Okay, so on this slide, what we're talking about here is that you should have some tools that you bring to the table. So if you have identified your niche clearly, and I hope your niche isn't everyone who will be willing to pay you a retainer fee. You should be, coaching a certain niche of people. You become the trusted advisor by choosing a narrow but deep niche, and then writing articles and having free tools on your website, offering free things on the internet or speaking engagements. You can say you can come to our website and click on this and this and this, or go to this URL and you can get a free roadmap to get you to A, B, C, D And that all identifies you as a trusted advisor and someone who has the tools for that niche. And a trusted advisor is someone who is the authority or sometimes owns that niche because it's a narrow niche and people come to you for that. And other people, other coaches maybe refer you because you are on that niche and you have the tools, the methodology, and the system for people to get what they want because that's who you focus on. One of the examples I gave Jenna in past is a lady in Silicon Valley whose niche was she only worked with female dentists within a 25-mile radius of her office. And in that niche, she knew where those people hung out, and she hung out in that area. She knew she was female, and she worked with female clients, so she knew their needs and their emotional needs. She felt that there were some male coaches and male dentists that didn't relate as well and didn't understand the needs that female dentists and orthodontists and oral surgeons had. So she specialized in that, and she began to be the keynote speaker for those groups when those groups of people met. And therefore, she was the trust advisor, the authority in that niche, and that made her, by proxy, because nobody else had that niche, the authority, the trust advisor in that niche. You want to make a comment about any of that, Jenna?
Absolutely, and I think it comes down to when you know who you want to serve, who you want to work with, or who your niche is, or niche, you become a thought leader within that realm. And then, and my advice would be look for opportunities to create content around that. And the more you do that, then you have more of a toolbox. You have more ways of interacting with the clientele that you're looking to work with. And I'll just give you an example of what I do. So I create written content, and I have a radio talk show that's directed towards my niche is high performing female leaders, and I have a radio talk show that's strictly for that. I can write things, I can speak, and then if I have an individual that's in a place, either an existing client that's working on one subject matter, I can send them a recording, or I can send them something written, or if I'm looking at a prospective client, I can send them appropriate information that I think will serve them. And when you can come at it from that place of, as Drayton says a lot, how may I serve, and you can create content and offer that up, then very quickly you become known for what you do. And then you've got people coming to you saying, oh, hey, this is happening. Can you come speak to us on this? Or can you give a keynote on this? Or can you come on this call? Or all of those types of things. So it does, when you just create content because you are focused on a niche, then things tend to come together a lot quicker than just struggling to find clients.
Outstanding, Jenna. Drayton's going to be hard pressed to get on these calls anymore. I'm really liking what you're bringing to the table.
Oh dear. Just kidding.
I love the way we work together. This is awesome. Not taking anything away from my pal Drayton, but you're a great compliment to what we're talking about. So what I was thinking about, Jenna, you were stimulating some thoughts for me about what you were saying. So, for example, what you didn't say, or I didn't hear you say, is you could to create content, you could write a blog, and you could talk about. Let's use this example of female dentists. So, if that was going to be your niche, you could write a blog on the struggles that many female dentists have. And in this case, it happens to be Silicon Valley, but it could be anywhere. It could be worldwide. And then, how do you get that information? You interview a few of them and ask them about, where they see they're struggling, or where could their struggles be unique. Okay, so then you write a blog or an article on that, and then your next blog or article is how to overcome 5 of the top 10 struggles that female dentists have. And then your following blog after that, or white paper or article or post on your website is, is the 6 through 10, the 6 through 10, the second 5 solutions to the top 10 problems that most female dentists have. And as you create content, as Jenna was advocating, then you are now becoming the thought leader, the trusted advisor in that arena, and now your content is backing that up, and people that are not in your niche, like male dentists or friends of female dentists or other business people, they say, hey, they call their friends up and say, did you realize that there's somebody who's advocating, who's coaching and working just with female dentists in this particular part of the world? Maybe you should contact them and find out more about what they're doing. I love what I read on their blog. And so therefore, you're creating content that's feeding into your niche, and your niche is now boomeranging back and finding you, because when you Google and search for, or when people read your blogs and your articles and the things that you're doing, or if you ask Jenna to be interviewed on her radio talk show, and that's what you say you are, the people that are listening get that information, and they find you, and they locate you because that you do what is needed for that group of people, and you're the coach, the trusted advisor, the thought leader for that realm. And then the last thing I want to say, as Jenna is taking us to the next slide, is your ROI. If you're not promising an ROI for your clients, then that's going to be an issue, a barrier between them hiring you and the difference between them hiring you and not hiring you. In other words, in previous calls we said, well, how can you promise them an ROI when you don't know these people and when you don't have a relationship to them? Well, here's how we do it at businesscoach.com, and then I'll see what Jenna may want to respond to that question. We make a list of the projects, at least 3, but typically no more than 6 to start with, areas that they can't achieve on their own. So almost all of them, almost every client is increase my bottom line profit from 7% to the bottom line to 10% or more to the bottom line. Another one might be increase sales from A to B to C, whatever it is, over a 1-year period of time, et cetera, et cetera. When you look at those different areas that they want, increasing productivity employees, et cetera, et cetera, if you add those up, they should be getting at least a 3 times return on their coaching dollars. So if you're charging them $2,500 a month or $300 a month, then you want to create a game for them that is big enough that's going to get a return on their investment. And I would say a benchmark for that would be 3 times return on investment. Jenna, do you want to add to that before we get to what's missing?
Absolutely, and I'm in complete agreement with what you said, Gary. And I tend to have 5 focus areas, and where I'm working more one-on-one with an individual, it can be a little bit more subjective, where it can be to ascertain the most effective way to bring so-and-so's current strength to the organization, or it can be to further develop a training culture to bolster employee growth and thus performance. So these are the types of things when you meet with a prospective client and you're asking them the questions of, what are you looking to get out of coaching? Why are you here? What is it that we need to speak about? And then they start to talk about them and where they are and what they're trying to accomplish. Then you're making note of the objectives that they have, and those are benchmarks where you may say, I can't put a dollar amount on that. There are ways that you can create a return on investment. So if someone is looking to establish a framework to refine their impact, where are you currently at with that? What kind of impact are you making right now? What are you looking to achieve? And then you can even go as far as, there's 360s that you can do. You can do different survey things, but you can also have conversations. Would you be all right if I have a conversation with a couple key people within the organization to see where you are and where you're hitting that mark? Then you have a starting place, and you can check back in with that and have that constant flow of where are we, how are we doing with the objectives, this is where we're going, and you really start to create a beautiful dance with the client where you're both working forward in the same direction.
Outstanding, well put, and I love the different point of view and the harmony that we create going back and forth. So I'm going to make a couple of comments about what's missing that I see, Jenna, and turn it back over to you. Some things for you folks to look at are hopefully the notes that you've taken so far. Who are you being? Explaining the relationship, expectations. Creating your niche and making it a narrow niche, and all of those things are missing. But I would say there's a couple things that I had in mind for this particular slide. One of them is are you asking everyone that you come in contact with who's their coach? So when you meet somebody at an event or even at the grocery store or in a business environment or a non-business environment, you get invited to a Christmas party or a party of some kind, and people say they're an entrepreneur, are you bold enough to go up to them during the conversation, not at the very beginning, but somewhere there, and say, who is your coach? And when they say they don't have a coach, then say, well, you can kind of act disappointed. Oh, really? Most of the people that are successful in the arts, in the sports, in the world, in the world of business anymore, it's pretty commonplace to have a coach. What would it take for you and I to get together and have a conversation about the benefits and the return on investment for you to have a coach? So there's one thing that's typically missing that I wanted to bring up on this particular slide. The other thing is that who is your coach? And I'm speaking now to everyone listening in the listening audience. Do you have a coach? Is somebody coaching you and pushing you, bringing the best out of you? Have you found somebody who can coach you who's a better coach than you? And the more you pay them, the better your performance is going to be, the bigger ROI you're going to get on your coaching dollars. So you create a relationship with that person and ask them to point you in the direction of getting a serious ROI, return on investment, on your coaching dollar that you would invest with them. So it's important that you look at being true to your industry and your coaching business, not practice but business, and having somebody coach you and push you into doing these things and reminding you how important all of these things that we've talked about today are in the domain of having a system, a process, a methodology. You want to add to that before we move to the next slide, Jenna?
Yeah, Gary, and I'll be real quick here because I'm conscious of the time, but I think one of the other pieces I would add to that is treat your business like a business, not like a hobby. So many people treat their coaching business like a hobby, and they don't switch out of that mindset to be able to build what it is they're looking to build. So that's just the last piece of that puzzle that I would throw in there, Gary.
Excellent.
Okay, so should we move to the next slide?
We should, yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, so what's next for you folks is to create a methodology so your clients can see the path that you're going to be having them on. So you want to create a methodology, and in a minute here I'm going to give you a little taste of businesscoach.com's methodology so that you can get an idea of what ours looks like in the limited amount of time that we have to work with that. Prepare the client for the long-term commitment. So you want to make sure, again, we want to emphasize to you that the coaching is not a quick fix. and it is not something that is going to happen to change old habits overnight and create new ones. You want to make sure that you have in advance a set of assignments. We use the word homework for you all, but you don't necessarily have to call them homework assignments, but we wanted to emphasize the point that for every hour to an hour and a half that you spend with your client in face-to-face time or over the phone coaching time, they should be doing 2 to 3 times that much of assignments on their own time in between coaching sessions. And if you do these things, it's going to be obvious that you're the trusted advisor, the mentor, and the coach for them, and they're going to understand and be able to sense that there's going to be a good ROI for them by investing money in having you as their coach. Now back to the first bullet point before I turn it over to Jen. I want to give you a little idea of our methodology, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit on 8 different areas of our methodology, and this is the context, not the content. And each one of these areas it has a whole chapter of information that we have in a client workbook for our clients. So here's 8 categories that we talk about with our clients categorically. First of all, we want them to understand what their vision is for their business. And along with the vision, we also want them to have a mission, a vision and a mission for their business. So that's the first area that we typically look at and work with them on. The next thing is we want to find out what are they committed to and what are the employees committed to. So we have a whole chapter, a whole discussion that potentially could go on for weeks about the topic of what are they committed to and what are the employees committed to and what are they committed to delivering to their end user, their customers, their clients. The next topic is communication. We have a whole process of communication tools for our clients. We have them understand communication at the level of the leaders communicating to the employees, regular meetings, job descriptions, org charts, all kinds of different communication tools. We create a score-keeping system so that they can keep score of the results that they're getting, not only with the coaching, but in their profitability of their business. We have, again, a whole system, a process, a chapter for them to study for strategic planning. And again, these are all areas that we work with them on, but not necessarily in this order. So we choose the order based on the client's need. Another area we work with them on is team building and teamwork, having the employees work together as team. All throughout the relationship, we work on the category of leadership. So we have a strong, again, a whole chapter of leadership. And then the final category, number 8, and these, again, they're not in order, is accountability. Who's holding them accountable? Who's holding the employees accountable? What relationship do they have to holding their employees accountable and holding each other accountable to achieve the goals and the direction that the coaching is helping them achieve? Now, if they do all those things, we tell them that they're going to get results, and there's many other areas that we work on them with, but clearly in these different areas, we have a month's worth of assignment on each and every one of those categories, and they go in and out of the assignments, and we go back and forth in those different 8 categories. And there's other categories, but these are probably generically the context that we work mostly with our clients. And then we have found books that other people have authored that fit our methodology and those topics. So we have found some books that they're not just bestsellers, but ones that fit our methodology that are homework assignments in addition to to the reading assignments and the material that we have inside of our methodology. Okay, Jenna, so before we go to the next slide, anything you want to say about what's on this current slide called What's Next and the areas that I talked about in terms of how they might create a methodology for their coaching business?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that came up for me when we were talking about a methodology, we already discussed at the beginning of this call why it's important to have a methodology and what that methodology can bring to you. But you're hitting on some foundational pieces that come into play when you're looking at successful business, and that's really what we're talking about when we talk about methodology. So as individuals create their own process or methodology, they've got to look at their niche and who they're working with and what they're trying to achieve, what kind of service are they offering, and then create the process that they see moving the client to the end game, if you will. So when you're creating the methodology, there's some foundational pieces that'll usually be in there. And that'll be around values, mission, things that are really foundational, and that strategic planning piece that you mentioned, and accountability and sustainability and those types of things, but really being specific as to how you're going to serve this business or this client, and then creating the process from there. And then when I think about the piece about homework assignments and fostering their growth, I've always loved the statement, and it's about drawings. If you look at a drawing, it's not the lines on the paper, it's what's in between that matters. And I think about that with coaching. So it's not necessarily the coaching call that's going to cause the shift or the perspective or the new thought process. The growth comes between the calls. So I don't think about it as homework. I like to think about it as opportunity, right? So what do we want to present to our clients to allow them to grow between the calls? Because that's where the juice really tends to come from. So those are the two things that I would add to what you said there, Gary.
Beautiful. I love it. I absolutely love it. So as you go to the next slide, I want to I want to elaborate on something that you said, Jenna, and that is the picture that I would like to have you see. Jenna said have them walk towards their goals, through a process and go in a certain direction. Picture that you're standing in their future, and that you're gently pulling them in the direction of their goals, their dreams, their vision, the characteristics and the qualities that they want to become, and all those things that coaching can bring to the table in any kind of a niche, or as Jenna might say in Canada, a niche. And so picture yourself standing there, and every time they fall down on one knee, every time they don't do an assignment, every time they feel like they can't do it or whatever, you're standing in that future, and you're reminding them of the dreams and the goals and the vision for what they have, that's so powerful that they don't have now, but that's something that they can have in the future. And so you're standing in that future, and you're pulling them in that direction. So that's the visual, I would like to say. And then our final slide here talks about the steps to success. So what Drayton and I have come to a conclusion is that all this talk about systems and processes, all this talk about how much to charge your clients, all the conversation about things like ground rules and having an agreement and making it a 12-month agreement, and all those things are the tools and the toolbox and the methodology and the system, the process that you're going to need in order to be successful and to create a relationship with your client so that you have a return on investment that is significant enough for them to feel like they got a great value out of the coaching relationship. So that being said, we also wanted to put in 3 pieces that I believe other trainers, other coaching organizations this, and I think it's the biggest missing in the entire industry, Jenna, and that is the three most powerful things that you can bring to the table for your clients are, first and foremost, you bring an outside objective opinion. Your clients cannot have their own outside objective opinion. So therefore, what you bring to the table is something that is clean, it's different, it's objective, it is not what they would do or say necessarily, although there could be some overlap there. But what you're bringing to the table are these three things: an outside objective opinion that they can't do for themselves, and that in and of itself is worth the fees that you'll charge them and more. The second most powerful thing that you can bring to the table is holding them accountable. You are their accountability partner. And as hard as they may try, as much as they may want it to be that way, they cannot hold themselves accountable. It just doesn't work that way. And by the way, their business partner can't hold them accountable. Their spouse can't hold them accountable. Their employees can't hold them accountable. To some degree, some of that can take place. But as a coach, you become the incredible person in their life that calls them out, holds them accountable. If their goal is to achieve A, B, and C in between the sessions, read a book, hire a sales manager, and implement a 360 on themselves and get that out in the next 7 days between coaching sessions, then you're there in a week, and the first thing that you do is you come in and ask them, let's go over what your assignments were for this last week and see if you completed your assignments before we go on. It creates a relationship between you and them that is very, very powerful. And then, of course, the third thing is that if you're the outside objective opinion and you're an accountability partner and have them do those things which they likely would not do without having you as their partner, then you will create results in areas that they cannot produce results on their own. So you're there to do these things for them, to be the thought leader, to be the listener, to be the person to ask the tough questions, to be the accountability partner, and they are going to create results in areas where they currently have blind spots. And that is going to be a long, powerful, huge return on investment for them if they are coachable and they follow your lead. Okay, Jenna, I'll let you close this out in this last 2 or 3 minutes and see what you might be able to add to the conversation here.
Absolutely. And one of the things about the outside objective opinion is, remember, these individuals are not getting accurate information. They're getting filtered information. And that objective opinion, it's not just in what they're saying. You know, there's a great deal of learning that comes from, say, if someone, you give them homework, they don't accomplish it. There's learning in that. What's getting in the way? That you'll see disconnects, right? You'll see values disconnects. You'll see disconnects with other things that they're saying they want to do. However, it's not matching. So that's part of it, right? You don't just bring the objective opinion on what they're saying. You're bringing an objective opinion on what they're not saying, on what they're not doing, along with the things that they're doing. So that's invaluable, because very rarely, as Gary says, do they have anyone in their lives that could possibly do that. So a coach is that outside influence. And the accountability piece, these individuals are most likely used to calling the shots, and they're used to holding other people accountable. And I adore high, we would classify them maybe as A-type, you know, the aggressive type. I love it. I just love being with them, because they're the ones always telling other people who they need to be and how they need to be and how do they need to perform. Well, when we become a coach for them, we allow the space for them to hear, which is really valuable. And the last piece, the create results not possible on their own, the things that they will achieve are beyond the things that they can see in their current perspective. And that is, again, the beauty of coaching and what coaches bring to the table for individuals and for a business, because you are opening them up. You're opening them up to seeing potential possibilities, even threats, things that they're not currently seeing. And that's the role of the coach, is to bring that to the table so that they can really think and they can take deliberate action to move in the direction that they're looking to move in. So Gary, that about wraps it up. We're on our last slide here.
Yes, it does. My closing thought is remember, that's who you're being as a coach. You're being the accountability partner, you're being an outside objective opinion, and you're being someone whose coaching style brings results to the table that they couldn't achieve on their own. So really powerful, powerful stuff. Thanks so much for listening today. Remember, we do the Coaching Crucible calls every third Thursday of the month at this very same time. Mr. A. Drayton Boylston will be back with us next month. I promise you that. If I have to hog tie him and bring him to the table myself, but that doesn't mean you're off the hook, Jenny. We might have you on the call too. That might be a fun way to do it. And remember, we also have these PowerPoints and recordings available on YouTube online, available for you to listen to them and review them. So thanks so much, everybody, for being on the call today. Thank you so much, Jenna. I just so enjoy working with you, and we'll see you all next month at the very same time.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.